Hey everybody, welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm AJ, here with Erik. And today we're going to talk to you about managing credit card applications in a way that protects your credit and earns you a ton of miles that can be used to travel the world. Today's show notes can be found at abroaders.com/earn-points. So how's it going, man?
Going great. Big week this week at Abroaders.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good one.
Yeah, so for those of you, welcome to everybody who's joining, just discovered us from the Tropical MBA. I joined Dan Andrews this past Thursday and talked about redeeming miles for business and first class flights. It was a really cool interview, great experience, and we've had a ton of new questions, new folks getting in contact with us and asking about how they can get started earning free travel. So today's show, I wanted to spend a little bit of time covering some of the things that we didn't talk about on the Tropical MBA podcast. If you do want to check out that interview, it's at tropicalmba.com/mileage. Today, we're going to go through some of the core skill sets that you need for earning points through credit card churning and doing so in a way that protects your credit. So we're going to cover some of the stuff that we didn't get a chance to get to in that interview. Business has definitely taken off, man. It's been kind of exciting. We've had some really interesting people get in touch with us.
Yeah, man, I think that's been my favorite part. The people that found us from the Tropical MBA or stumbled across the site. A lot of people have, they're up to some really cool stuff, and they've got some really interesting travel itineraries. You spoke with, Paul? Family of 6 traveling the world. A bunch of people doing really cool things.
I think all of their kids must be under like 10 or 12 years old. I mean, they're all really young. These folks they've been vagabonding, just going place to place for years now. And so I'm really excited. It's going to be a challenge, as anybody that's been listening for a little while knows. The more tickets you want to book together on an itinerary with points, the more challenging it gets. But I'm really excited for that. I think it's such a cool story. I'm interested in working on that. And there's a few other people that have presented some really interesting travel plans and goals. And so I'm very excited to start working with all these new people and help them realize that goal of really cheap travel.
Yeah, definitely. You guys may have noticed we've launched a completely new offer on the Abroaders homepage. That's not going to be permanent. We just wanted to get that offer out there because we finally got buttoned enough to offer this service at a really high level. For all you podcast listeners, though, do not worry. We're not transitioning away from offering free content or the podcast. We're going to continue to do the podcast. We're going to continue to provide as much free information as possible. These plans are just for people that are too busy to do it themselves, or they want to just really accelerate the process and start traveling now.
Yeah, and one other thing, we did get a lot of questions about this over the last week as well, that people who maybe were interested in taking advantage of full service, but also wanted to learn travel hacking. And so we're in the process of developing sort of that product as well so that we can take people through the process. And we want to try and allow that transparency so that our customers are seeing what we're doing behind the scenes if they have an interest in learning to get better at travel hacking themselves. So we're really excited to work with you guys. And certainly if you have questions, reach out to us at support@abroaders.com. One other announcement before we get into the credit card application management content here. We're looking for a new intern.
Yeah, so this internship, it's going to be a virtual internship. Obviously, we're going to live our brand and let people be where they want and travel where they please to go. But what you will do in this internship, you'll essentially become a travel hacking expert. We're going to give you the ins and outs of our internal processes, how we run our travel hacking business, how we stay up to news on the latest travel hacking changes in the programs and the airlines. So this is perfect for somebody that wants to become an expert on travel hacking and also get really good with the systems and processes necessary to succeed when you outsource work, because we all know it sounds really nice, but it can be a bit more hairy than imagined. And we've been ironing that out for a few years now. So that is another skill set that you'll pick up. So if you are interested in the internship position, we'd prefer to talk details with you over Skype or via email. So how long are we going to have that open, Erik?
Yeah, so I'm going to be taking off in a couple of weeks for Europe, and I'm going to be really, really busy and moving around. So I want to make sure that we get up and running with the new intern as soon as possible. So we're going to leave this application open until 12 p.m. or 11:59 on Friday night. So If you're interested, get a hold of us. Just send a request to support it abroad, letting us know you'd like to apply for the internship. We'll set up an interview. Early bird's definitely going to get the worm on this one because we've got a ton of really cool stuff to work on. And so we're looking for somebody that's motivated. Just send us a quick request by email. Let us know why you want to be involved, and we'll set up a time to talk with you on Skype and see if it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, definitely excited to hear from you guys. Moving on into upcoming travels, I have been a procrastinator with my flight for DC BKK, but finally going to get that booked this week. That is a non-negotiable. So I'm probably going to book this with United, take advantage of a stopover in Europe, and then ultimately get to Bangkok. And I'm going to open jaw my way home from Saigon because I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting DC folks that are going to be posting up in Saigon after that conference. There was last year, and it was a really good time. So I think I'm going to kind of repeat my itinerary of last year. May mix in a couple other cities, but I'll probably fly into Frankfurt or Berlin, Germany, maybe check out a couple spots in Eastern Europe, and then I'll make my way to Asia.
Sounds like a pretty good trip, man. You still thinking Poland?
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Poland, and it's a bit untapped. I mean, there's tourists that go there, but it's not nearly as touristy as, say going to Prague or Berlin or Munich. Krakow is one place that I've heard some really good things about. And then there is obviously, I can't even believe I'm forgetting the name of it, the biggest city in Poland. Warsaw, yeah. So those two are on the list.
Awesome. All right. So I've also got some trips coming up. As I mentioned, I'm going to be taking off in a little over a week here for Italy, Spain, Greece, and Germany before joining up with AJ in Asia. So any of you guys are currently in Europe and would like to try and grab a beer, let me know, shoot me an email, and we'll see if we can make that happen. All right. One last thing before we get into the core content of the show today. I discovered an interesting hack with regards to using your British Airways Avios points. And so I wanted to share this because you need about 90 days of lead time to be able to make this work. So one of the other partners that is affiliated with British Airways is Spanish carrier Iberia. And their frequent flyer program actually shares the currency with British Airways. But the redemption process is separate. And so the short version is that you can save a bunch of money on fuel surcharges if you use your British Airways points to redeem with Iberia. And the way to make that happen is you need to sign up for an Iberia account 3 months before you make any of those redemptions. And essentially that can save you $300 to $500 on fuel surcharges if you redeem through Iberia instead of through British Airways. So there's going to be a link on the website on the show notes for how to actually get this done. But the opportunity that I came across was a pretty significant savings. I was going to be able to fly Iberia on this upcoming trip from Madrid to Athens, Greece, instead of spending an entire day routing through the UK and paying a bunch of fees to go out of Heathrow. So take a look at that. The basic process, you just need to get signed up for an Iberia account right away. And once you've had that account open for 90 days, you can move your British Airways points over to that freely and skip out on $300 to $500 worth of fuel surcharges.
That's big time, man. That's a good hack. All right, now moving into the core content. So let's talk about earning points through credit card applications. We've covered this before. It was actually in our 5th podcast episode, but that episode was targeted a bit more towards the first-time travel hacker. So today we're going to recap the basics, and then we're going to talk about some more advanced strategies for career travel hackers, as we'll put it. So we've learned quite a bit more about applications since we started our premium service, because Erik and I only knew about our own travel hacking profiles before, and now that we've been working with a lot of different people, we've got some pretty good data on some trends and what makes the application process a success and what produces some more challenges. So bonuses are the easiest and the fastest way. Going after these big bonuses is also called credit card churning. So in travel hacking, credit card churning and earning is the epitome of the 80-20. If you want to earn points, just do credit card churning.
Yep. And if you have limited time, that's really all you need to earn a lot of free travel. A couple of notes about these sign-up bonuses. First of all, they're generally a U.S. phenomenon. So we've been really happy to get requests and have people reach out to us from all over the world, Australians, Canadians. There is some travel hacking that you can do from those places as well. But the sign-up bonuses are mostly just available to U.S. folks. So we are going to focus on that. If you are from another country, let us know, and we'll put you on our non-U.S. list and keep you updated on any opportunities that apply outside the United States. The second thing in general to know about these applications is they are going to require a small amount of spending, typically $1,000 to $5,000 in 3 to 6 months to earn those bonuses. So the rest of the episode today, we're going to talk about the process start to finish, how you should check your credit, how you should find and apply for those applications, and how you should keep track of them all the way through until you've got the points in your frequent flyer account and are ready to redeem those points for travel.
Like we said, man, this is the 80-20. This is the quick win. So signing up for a few cards to get a bunch of points. It might sound like a lot, and there might be some things that sound scary. You might be thinking about your credit, but keep in mind this process is only done 2 to 4 times a year, depending on how aggressive you want to be, how many miles you really want to get. So we're going to get into some credit card application best practices. The first thing is you got to check and you got to understand your credit. So the first part about checking your credit is just go to creditkarma.com. It is a free service that allows you to check your credit and keep tabs on it. Now, the second part is understanding your credit. So a quick breakdown that's fairly accurate about how your credit works and how the score is produced is 35% of your credit is payment history, 30% is amounts owed, 15 is the length of history, 10 is the types of credit, and another 10% is the new credit. So pre-application, you should always check your credit to make sure that you have the best chance of getting approved for as many cards as possible. So like I said, go to creditkarma.com and get your credit before you apply for a round of cards.
Great advice. And yeah, that's a tool that we're using with all of our customers. A couple of quick things to just cover on that breakdown of the components of credit. By the way, one piece of news, FICO is one of the major companies that generates those credit scores. And they've recently announced that they're taking a big component out of credit score calculations that was previously causing a lot of negative effects for people's scores. So they've basically taken out any sort of medical collections and any past debts that have been marked as paid. So that may affect your credit score really positively, and those changes should be rolled out this fall. Just a quick breakdown. So the really key things, 35% is payment history. That's paying your bills on time. That's fundamental, basic financial management. And if you can't do that, you definitely shouldn't be in travel hacking because it can be really dangerous. You can get into a lot of debt. So you should be paying off your bill every month in full, avoiding those interest charges, and making sure you get all those payments in on time. The real low-hanging fruit with respect to your credit is that second category, which is 30% being your amounts owed. And another word for this is credit utilization. And what that means is that banks are taking a look at how much of your total available credit you're using right now. So if AJ, for example, had a $10,000 credit limit and he's only spent $5,000, his utilization is going to be 50%. That makes it a little bit harder to get approved for cards. You want to keep that number under 30%. And so that's the biggest thing that you can change before making your round of applications. So you check Credit Karma, you figure out what your utilization is, which is right there on the home dashboard on Credit Karma. And once you've got that, you want to try and knock that utilization down under 30%, and then you're good to make a new round of applications.
Yeah, so getting into that big question that we get all the time, doesn't all of this hurt your credit score? And the simple, quick answer is no. So a bunch of people assume that applying for all these cards will have that negative effect. But like Erik said, on your amounts owed, if you get approved for a new card, your utilization is going to be a lot better.
And that's because your new card comes with a new credit limit, right? So if
exactly.
AJ gets a new card, they're not going to just give him a card with no spending ability. So they add, say, $5,000 of credit limit, and that helps AJ's utilization.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, 15% of your credit score is length of history. So when you do open up a new account, it's nice that you're going to lower that utilization ratio, but that is going to hurt your length of history. So a key here is if you've got any credit cards that you've had for a long time and work for you, do not cancel those, keep those. That's what we consider anchoring your credit. Those are kind of the credit cards that will anchor your length of history.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so one thing, so it is true that new applications hurt your score temporarily. In our interactions with banks ourselves and with our customers, we're seeing 2 to 5 points get knocked off a score for a new application, but that effect usually doesn't last too long. I think the reason is that the 30%, the utilization part, is twice as powerful as the length of credit history part. So on the whole, over time, especially if you're looking at 6 months or more, you should see your score increase by doing these travel hacking activities, as long as you're taking it slow and steady and keeping an eye on your credit by checking it every time you do a round of applications.
Yeah, and like Erik said too, that 2 to 5 points is a short-term thing. It doesn't mean every time you do it, your credit's going to continually go down 5 points, and at year 3 of travel hacking, you've shaved off like 40 points of your credit. That's not the case at all.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit more. We've got a few points that we put together about how to think about and approach a round of credit card applications. So one of the first pieces of advice that you should pay attention to is that you want to apply for all the cards on the same day. And the reason is because of that small deduction that we just talked about for the new application. The banks report those applications at the end of a business day. And so if you do all your apps together, Citibank, for example, won't know that you applied for banks with Chase, Amex, and Barclays on that same day. In other words, if you spread it out and do one on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, you're going to have a much different picture for the bank that you applied for on Wednesday because they're going to see those other applications. If you bunch those together and you do 4 on the same day, you're going to be in much better shape in terms of how the banks see your credit when they take that snapshot and pull your credit score.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The next tip that we're going to get into is mixing business and personal credit cards. So the key here is that you're just going to have many more opportunities for churnable cards because they're business cards that often have really good bonuses too. So these are separate lending departments and separate decisions made by the credit card companies or the banks. So you actually can get a personal card and a business card. And one thing to keep in mind here is you don't have to be incorporated, have an LLC, or even own a business to get one of these business cards. You can use your social security number and that works just fine.
Awesome. So the next tip is that you want to diversify your applications across multiple banks. And you want to do a maximum of 1 business card and 1 personal card from a single lender. So in other words, it's not going to work if I try and apply for 2 personal credit cards from Chase because it's the same lending department and they're going to see 2 applications and they're going to deny one of them. That's the case with almost all of the major banks that are issuing credit cards right now for travel hacking. The second thing is that you want to build this relationship over time. So it's also valuable to diversify. Not only does that give you more options for cards in a given round of applications, but it also gives you an established history with more banks. And so Citi, Chase, and Amex are the primary players here. And then you've got Barclays, US Bank, Bank of America, and Capital One, which are somewhat more minor, but still important for accumulating a bunch of points that you can use for travel.
All right, the next point is do not bite off more than you can chew. So what we mean by this is don't apply for cards that you're not going to be able to hit the minimum spend on. That's tragic in the travel hacking world of getting approved for a card and not actually getting that bonus. That's the whole point. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to track your spending until you've reached the bonus, and then you're just going to shift spending to that next card that you're working against a minimum spend.
Yeah, and one thing to add with this, don't bite off more than you can chew. We have had a couple of people come to us that signed up for way more cards than we might have if we had been advising them on that first round. And so keep in mind, there's no rush to get started with this. It's awesome. A lot of people get, really excited when they discover travel hacking, and we want to avoid a scenario where you sign up for 7 or 8 cards at once, because that can make a big impact on your score. Those 2 to 5 points definitely add up. And, we did have one person that signed up for like 7 or 8. And it was going to be really hard for them to hit those minimum spends because there was so much of a spending requirement. And they also saw like a 40-point drop in their credit score. So it's really important to make sure that you take bite-sized chunks of this. You've got the rest of your life to earn free travel, so take it nice and slow. A first round of applications, usually 2 to 3 cards is good. Once you've gotten into it and see how it affects your score, you can look at maybe 3 to 5 cards. But I wouldn't do more than 5 total cards in an application unless you're really confident in your credit score and just really want those extra points.
Mm-hmm. Now, Erik, everyone's going to want to be checking to make sure they get the best offer, right?
Yes.
Can you explain?
The next thing that's really important to remember is banks are not always advertising their best deal. They love split testing. They're making a ton of money, and part of that is because they're very effective with minimizing the amount of money that they have to spend to get you as a customer. So that means that Citibank might be offering 30,000 points on one website and 50,000 points on another website for the exact same credit card. So you got to use the right links, and we can help you on that front. We are tracking more than 50 different credit card offers, and we got a page at abroaders.com/cards that has the current best offers for you to go get the most points that you can.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, the next point is if you do not get instantly approved for a card, you are going to want to call reconsideration. This is just going to increase the chances of you getting approved for the card greatly. And a quick tip on calling for reconsideration, just be really friendly to these people. These are human beings. Kind of state your case for why you want the card. Tell them that you plan to be doing a bunch of travel with that airline and you thought it would be, a bummer not to rack up miles on that credit card. And if you get turned down, just politely hang up the phone and try another agent. That's pretty much reconsideration in a nutshell.
Yeah, great summary there. We've also got a much more detailed overview of how to approach reconsideration, and I'm going to link to that in the show notes. It's a resource that we use with our customers and anybody that's asking questions about applications. So I'll put that link. Definitely check it out. If you get denied for a card, you can use those strategies. It's got a couple of different approaches that you can take and work your way through sort of a process to make sure that you have the best possible chance of getting the bank to change their mind and approve your new application.
Mm-hmm. Now, Erik, just like anybody sitting on a bunch of cash or sitting on a bunch of stuff, you want to be diversified, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, and this actually ties very closely to diversifying your relationships with banks. So the last point for credit card churning is that you want to diversify your currency. And by currency, we mean points. So each airline issues their own. American has one currency, Delta has a different currency. And by making your portfolio of frequent flyer miles diverse, you're spreading out your exposure. So if Delta makes a decision to double the prices of their award redemptions, the guy that has all Delta points is going to be in big trouble. The guy that's got some Delta and a little bit of 5 or 6 other currencies is going to be in much better shape. So you don't want to spread yourself too thin. You want to try and have enough points to make a redemption with each program, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. The last part here is that remember that this is subject to change. This is kind of like an investment portfolio that you want to spend, because if you hoard your points, they're eventually going to lose value over time. Programs devalue, they raise prices, and so the long-term trend of mileage collecting is that those miles lose value over time. There's inflation. And so this is something where you want to earn and then you want to burn those miles before they lose value. So start thinking about your next vacation, start planning that next trip, and then go for some miles that are going to get you there.
Yep, exactly. And another thing, too, for the person that's maybe thinking from a stockbroker perspective about being aggressive and really, going all in on some currencies, it's just not worth it. I mean, the mutual fund equivalent of travel hacking has such a fat return. Being diversified is going to give you more travel than you want. So just keep the points spread out. Don't go all on one currency.
Great tip. I think that's a good spot to leave it. Hopefully that was helpful. And again, if you have questions about this, it can be complicated. It can be a lot of information at the beginning. So reach out to us at support@abroaders.com, or even better, if you want comprehensive help managing this for your upcoming travel goals, check out abroaders.com, sign up for one of our full service travel hacking plans, and we're looking forward to working with you, help you build up that portfolio and make the redemptions on your behalf so that you can get where you want to go.
Good stuff, man.
What's the international jam this week, buddy?
This week's international jam is Always Classics Remix, brought to you by Panama, some electronic music makers from down under in Sydney, Australia. They are described as hopeful house enthusiasts and purveyors of nostalgic electronic sounds. Hope you enjoy.
And I know I'm just a coward when it comes to love, 'cause I'm backwards like an old wives' tale.
Hey Broaders, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.
All the way.